Hi guys, in today's video we will be looking at July 2021 current affairs. So Meccado Dam project is the first news that we will be looking into. Okay, the background for this is the River dispute. So this is a map of Kaveri River dispute. So over here we can see Kaveri River flowing through Karnataka. It starts from Karnataka and it flows to Kerala also over here, and we have it passing through Tamil Nadu. Most of the portion is passing through Tamil Nadu. Okay, Kaveri River originates in Karnataka, flows through Tamil Nadu with minor tributaries coming from Kerala and drains into Bay of Bengal through Pondicherry. Okay, this dispute is a 150-year-old dispute. There had been two agreements between then Madras Presidency and Mysore in 1892 and 1924. Okay, it entailed that the principle that the upper riparian state, that is Karnataka, must obtain consent of the lower riparian state from Tamil Nadu and Kerala for any construction activity, that is reservoir on Kaveri, River Kaveri. So, rise of dispute. In 1974, Karnataka started diverting water into its four newly made reservoirs without the consent of Tamil Nadu, resulting in a dispute. So, Kaveri Water Disputes Tribunal was established in 1990 to resolve the dispute. The tribunal took 17 years to arrive at the final order in 2017 on how Kaveri should be shared. So, what happened? So, this is TMCFT is actually 1000 million cubic feet. Okay. So for Tamil Nadu, it was allocated 419,000 million cubic feet of water. And for Karnataka, it was 270. And for Kerala, it was 30. And for Pondicherry, it was 7. Okay. On February of 2018, the court, in its judgment, revised the water allocation and increased the share of Karnataka by 14.75 thousand million cubic feet. Okay, at the cost of Tamil Nadu, this was reduced. This amount of water was reduced from the allocation given to Tamil Nadu. Okay, as per Supreme Court, Karnataka would get how much? 284.75 thousand million cubic feet of water. Tamil Nadu would get how much? It got reduced to 404. And Kerala, it remained as 30, and Pondicherry also remained as 7. Okay, so now we look at to the Meccadatu project. So these are the earlier four reservoirs that we talked about that was built in 1972, which led to the dispute. And after that, there is a proposed Meccadatu reservoir. Just now Karnataka, which sees now Karnataka is seeing this order, Supreme Court's order as a pass, or we can say as an allowance of its stand set out to pursue the Meccadatu project. It envisages the construction of a reservoir of how much? 67.16 thousand million cubic feet capacity. It will come up about 4 km away from Karnataka Tamil Nadu border. A hydropower plant of nearly 400 megawatt would had also been proposed. Has always also been proposed. Karnataka government also urged that the proposed reservoir will regulate the flow of Tamil Nadu on a monthly basis. Okay, that is about Meccadatu project. Okay, now we come to Swamhita scheme, survey of villages and mapping with improvised technology in village areas. It is a central sector scheme launched at National Panchayat Day. National Panchayat Day is when? On 24th April 2020 by Prime Minister. Nodal ministry is Ministry of Panchayati Raj. So whenever we look into a scheme, it is important to know about the ministry behind it or the type of funding that is receiving in a particular scheme. Okay. Now we look into the objectives. To bring financial stability to the citizens in rural India by enabling them to use their property as financial asset for taking loans and other financial benefits. Creation of accurate land records for rural planning, and creation of survey infrastructure and GIS maps that can be leveraged by any department for their use. To reduce property related disputes and legal cases. It is a scheme that is aimed at properly calculating the land area. So what is the benefits? Benefit, it would provide record of rights to the village household owners possessing houses in inhabited rural areas in villages. It would enable them to use their property as a financial asset. We have discussed it before. It ensures clarity on property rights. It will help in streamlining the revenue collection in rural areas. Now, e-Panchayat. What is e-Panchayat? E-Panchayat is an e-governance initiative for rural sector providing comprehensive software solution attempting automation of Gram Panchayat functions. It is a platform for Panchayat representatives to connect with the rest of the world. It aims to bring out the local voices by empowering the local communities to showcase and share local social, cultural, and economic practices, stories, and challenges. Okay, now next one we're looking at global framework for managing nature to 2030. So, who released this report? It was released by UN Convention on Biological Diversity. So, four goals to be achieved by 2050. Okay, on the halt to halt the extinction and decline of biodiversity, with the rate of extinction to be reduced about tenfold, at least tenfold. Further, the risk of species extinction to be halved and to be at least 90% genetic diversity within all species maintained to enhance and to retain nature's services to humans by conserving, to ensure fair and equitable benefits to all from the use of genetic resources, to close the gap between available financial and other means of implementation and those necessary to achieve 2050 vision. Okay, this is another global framework of managing nature. Just know about what which organization releases this report. You can quote these goals when you're writing mains answers. So if you want, you can read through it. Okay. Tri-Food scheme. Okay. Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India Limited under the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. The Tri-Food scheme is a joint initiative from the Ministry of Food Processing Industry, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and Tri-Food. Okay, it is necessary to know that sometimes it will be given instead of Tri-Food, it will be given some other Ministry of Ayush, and it will be given as an option in the prelims question. So you need to be careful because whenever multiple ministries are involved in a particular scheme, you need to know all the three ministries. So it is Ministry of Food Processing Industry, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and Tri-Food. Okay, it is implemented in the backdrop of what? Van Dhan Yojana. It will promote the value addition of minor forest produce. It will create local employment opportunities for the tribal communities and providing entrepreneurial opportunities in terms of raw material linkages to the units. Okay, next one is indigenous boosts defense production potential. It is actually I didn't complete this news. It's like still in the process of it. So in the next few months, when we look into the current affairs, we will be seeing a proper news on the defense production potential of our country. So mainly it comes under the Atmanirbhar mission in the defense sector. It aims to reduce the reliance on foreign imports and strengthen the security. Now there is another important report, that is India Inequality Report of 2021. Inequality Report of 2021. India's unequal healthcare story has been released by what? Oxfam, India. Okay, key findings are India's low spending on public healthcare system and focus on supporting. India supported private healthcare more than the public healthcare. So it led to serious inequalities. So common people, the poor or the lower middle class, which constitute a large proportion of the population, could not afford healthcare. Okay, so there is another comparison that general category are better off than the SCs and STs, Hindus are better off than the Muslims, rich are better off than the poor, men are better than that of the women, and urban population better off than the rural population. So another important aspect is that 1 rupee in every 6 rupees spent on hospitalization comes from borrowing. Okay, and another literacy rate is given that Female literacy rate is highest among Sikhs and Christians at over 80%, followed by Hindus, that is 68.3%, and Muslims is 64.3%. Now we look into Oxfam. Oxfam is a confederation of independent charitable organizations focused on elevation of global poverty. It is founded on 1942 and its headquarters is in Nairobi, Kenya. Okay, now we look into another important amendment act, that is 97th Amendment Act. So it was in the news uh, that time. So SCs, that is Supreme Court, upheld the 2013 judgment of the Gujarat High Court, which struck down the provisions of the 97th Amendment Act. To extend it introduced part 9b of the Constitution that deals with cooperative societies. The bench unanimously held that the 97th Amendment required ratification by the at least one half, that half of the state legislatures, as per Article 368 of the Constitution. Okay, as it dealt with, it was actually the cooperative society, it comes under state list. So, what was 97th Amendment? In Part 3 of the Constitution, afterwards union and the words cooperative societies were added. This enables all citizens to form cooperative societies, giving its status the fundamental right of citizens. So, Part 4 of the Article 43A was inserted, which says state shall endeavor to promote voluntary formation, autonomous functioning, democratic control, and professional management of the cooperative societies. A part 9b was inserted to accommodate state versus central roles. So now we look into what was the issue with the 97th Amendment. So provisions were passed without ratification by the state legislatures. Okay, it went to the extent of determining the number of directors a society should have, or their length or tenure, or even necessary expertise or experience required to become a member of the society. Now we look into Article 368 too. Parliament can amend the constitution by passing a bill in each house by a majority of total membership of that house and a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of that house present and voting. Now, and if following matters included, then also required to be ratified by the legislature of not less than half of the states. Now, we look into what are cooperative societies. Cooperative societies can be defined as an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, cultural needs and aspirations through jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprises. The cooperative movement was started by weaker sections of the society for protecting its members from clutches of huge profit-hungry businesses. Now we look into another important question, another important news, that is Asian Developmental Outlook. So it is actually a report released by Asian Developmental Bank. Okay, key findings is the GDP of developing Asia 2022 is upgraded from 5.3 to 5.4 percentage. That is GDP projection. Okay, expansion in China is still projected at 8.1 percentage in 2021 and 5.5 in 2022. So, in the case of India, GDP will rebound by 11% in the financial year of 2021 to 2022 due to continued economic recovery boosted by increased public investment, vaccine rollout, and surge in domestic demand. Now we look into Asian Development Bank. It was established in 1966. Head office is Manila, Philippines. It has 68 members, of which 49 are within Asia and Pacific and 19 outside. Japan holds the largest share in the Asian Development Bank, that is 15.677 percentage, and India with 5.812 percentage. Bank is modeled in the lines of World Bank. India is a founding member. This question can also be asked. Now we look into SMILE scheme. SMILE scheme, the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So which ministry rolled out SMILE scheme? Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has launched SMILE, that is support for marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise. It also includes a sub-scheme, Central Sector Scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation of persons engaged in begging. Okay, so is there any scheme associated with begging or people engaged in the act of begging? we can say there is a SMILE scheme. And which ministry is accountable for it? Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay. Now, India's offshore wind energy. The Union Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has set up a target of installing 5 gigawatt of offshore capacity by 2022 and 30 gigawatt by 2030. India can generate up to 120 gigawatt of offshore wind energy from its vast coastline. Benefits. It is proven that the offshore and wind turbines are more efficient compared to onshore ones. So fewer ones are required to produce same efficiency. More electricity can be generated and the wind speed of the water body is high and is consistent in direction. Okay, challenges. Now, challenges are local substructure manufacturers, installation vessels, and trained workers are lacking in India. Offshore wind turbines require stronger structures and foundation than the onshore wind farms. Okay, so high cost of installation. Maintenance cost is also high, and action of winds that can damage the wind turbines. Now, another important news is about Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. So, it was established in 1st October 2016. Dates are not important, but just in the news, so I'm giving it to you under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016. It oversees the activities of bodies such as insolvency professional agencies, insolvency professionals, and information utilities, registered valuers, and registered valuer organizations. Okay, Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India implements rules generating corporate insolvency resolution processes, individual insolvency, and corporate liquidation. Okay, suppose it is insolvency means suppose a company has a huge debt or it is at debts more than 1 lakh. So what happens is that the insolvency board will take over the management and in that it will be decided whether it should sell a particular stake of the company or if the company can manage with proper administration, whether to recover the losses. All these kind of measures will be taken accordingly by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Okay. Now, another important aspect that we need to look into is the subcategorization of OBCs. So, it is in the it is in the news because Union Cabinet has approved an extension of 6 months in the term of Justice Rohini Commission examining the possibility of subcategorization within the other backward classes in the central list. Okay. The Union Cabinet constituted 4-member commission headed by Justice. Now you are looking in the kind of like a background to it. Justice G. Rohini in 2017 under Article 340. So it is in an aim to improve the equitable benefit sharing of various groups of OBCs. So Article 340 is an article that is related to forming commission to investigate on backward classes. So why is there a need for subcategorization of OBCs? More than half of the caste in 1900 caste have not got any proper benefits of reservation. The commission said that 25% of the benefits were taken by 10 caste. The profession-based castes such as Kalikas or a community traditionally polishes tins and Silkadas and Saranyas, communities that traditionally sharpen knives. Apart from several other marginalized groups, didn't even get any benefits, even though they are OBCs. Now the challenges, the political sensitivity. Okay, the OBC, the reservation, reserved community is actually a vote bank for the political parties. Okay, recommendations in the reservations are based on the 1931 census. It is a very old census. So the estimates are very outdated. New 500 more castes have been added to the list after Mandal Commission, and it didn't have the population of princely states also, and lack of social and educational status. National Commission of Backward Classes. What was it? It was set up as a statutory body under NCBC Act of National Commission of Backward Classes Act of 1993. The 102 Constitutional Amendment Act made it a constitutional body. So, who are OBCs? OBC is a collective term used by the government to classify castes which are educationally and socially disadvantaged. OBCs are a vastly heterogeneous group. They are various jatis or subcastes which vary significantly in societal and economic status. For instance, OBCs include land-owning communities. Okay, in both in North and South India, alongside poorer sections of the society, leaving a subsistence labor. So, what is a way forward? Subcategorization is based on the relative benefits of OBCs and not on the social backwardness. This will help in the inclusion of deprived classes. Proper revision of the creamy layer should also be done. Now, Juvenile Justice Amendment Bill. So, juvenile is a person that is less than 18 years old. So, bill addresses people who are in conflict with the law, the children who that is are guilty of crimes, and children who need care and protection. Act is brought to replace Juvenile Delinquency Law and the Juvenile Justice Act of 2000. It fulfills the commitment towards UN Convention of Rights of Child and the huge Convention on Protection of Children and Cooperation in respect to inter-country adoption. So you can go through it. Benefits of the bill is that faster adoption of the bill is possible because district magistrates and additional district magistrates are also involved in the adoption orders, in issuing adoption orders. Okay, smooth implementation. And concerns is that these district and additional district magistrates, they have other cases or other things that they need to uh, give their attention to, not only adoption or juvenile justices. So that kind of problem will cause delay in other aspects of the judiciary. Okay, that is another major concern. Okay, now next is Forest Rights Act. Act recognizes and vests forest rights and occupation in forest land in forest dwelling scheduled tribes and other forest dwellers. So what will happen? The act will give ownership to land farmed by tribals up to 4 hectares. Right to use forest to use for grazing, fishing, and to extract minor forest produce, to rehabilitate and relocate tribals in case of eviction from current area. Okay, and reduce the intellectual and right to intellectual property rights, traditional knowledge, recognition of traditional knowledge is also there. Now we look into another important organization, OPEC Plus, with 40% of global crude oil production and 60% of international trade. OPEC is the biggest grouping to influence oil prices. So, full form is Organization of Petroleum Exporting Nations. So, what is the background? Created on the Baghdad Conference of 1960, OPEC is a permanent intergovernmental organization with Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela as the founding members. Executive organ Secretariat at Vienna with 13 current members. Objective: OPEC coordinates and unifies petroleum policies of its member countries, ensuring stabilization of oil markets to protect the interest of consumers, producers, and investors. So in 2016, due to falling crude, now the emergence of OPEC Plus, due to falling crude prices, 10 non-OPEC oil producing nations signed a declaration of cooperation with OPEC to jointly work towards stabilization of oil prices. This new grouping was known as OPEC Plus or a Vienna group, uniting two major cartels of crude oil rich nations to influence oil prices through production. So you can go through this. We have Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Algeria, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Angola, Republic of Congo, Nigeria, Venezuela, Ecuador as OPEC Plus. Okay. Now, why does fluctuation of oil prices impact India? So, India is the third biggest oil importer. So, the import bill increases in such a way that every $1 price increase will raise our import dollar by about 10,700 crore on an annualized basis. Okay. So, Indian forex reserves, it was in the news because we became the fourth largest forex reserve holder after Japan, China, and Switzerland with about $612 billion. Okay, forex reserves are assets held to reserve by central bank in foreign currencies. So usually the currencies taken are US dollar, euro, British pound, Japanese yen, and Chinese yuan. Okay, reasons for this hike in forex reserves is what? High foreign capital flow due to growing number of startups, cooperative tax cut, and high returns from the market. Due to COVID and consumption in the country has reduced as a result of the total expenditure also reduced. Total expenditure in the country also reduced due to COVID, and revenue from remittances, that is people working abroad, also increased. Now another important news is Pegasus spyware. So Pegasus is a spyware developed and licensed by Israeli company NSO Group. It can be used to infiltrate smartphones and that run on both iOS and Android operating systems and turn them into surveillance devices. So it works on a zero-click attacks that does not require any action from the user. A simple WhatsApp missed call is necessary to hack into the system. Okay, uh, you can read through all these things. So the background is also but given. Just read through this. It gives an idea about the IT Act, gives about the Telegraph Act is also given. So just go through it, and about the privacy. Privacy an issue with the surveillance, the government looking after you. The privacy case, the Puttaswamy and the Union of India case. Okay, which made freedom of speech and liberty under Article 19 and 21 of the Constitution. Okay, all these things you can read it by yourself. Now, drone rules. Drone rules of 2021. Drone is a layman terminology for unmanned aircraft. UAV. An aircraft which is intended to operate with no pilot on board. So, it finds its uses in insurance to collect crop yield and assess drain damage of insurance purposes. Now we have agricultural purposes. For crop supervision, crop maintenance, we have energy and utilization monitoring, site monitoring can be done. Okay, and we can for infrastructural facilities for like 3D video mapping and town planning, all this aspect. Mining is there, thermal imaging, and we have infrastructure and equipment inspection. All this aspect can play a big role in drones can play a big role in all these aspects. Okay, and key changes in the new drone rules are, I will only give important points. There is no security clearance required before any registration or license issuance. Okay, and coverage of drones under drones rule increased from 300 kilogram to 500 kilogram. And maximum penalty under the drone rules reduced to 1 lakh. This shall, however, not apply to penalties respect to violation of other laws. Okay, drone corridors will be developed for cargo deliveries. Drone Promotion Council set up to facilitate business-friendly regulatory regime. So, how is there was another news in the recent times about attacks on the military bases via drones. Okay, so DRDO has developed an anti-drone system will be deployed this year. So, Indian Air Force has decided to procure a counter unarmed aircraft system that will be armed with laser directed energy weapons to bring down rogue drones. So, this is an image of the DRDO developed anti-drone system. It has a hard skill. A hard kill is actually a laser beam that projects into the drone and it disables the drone. And soft skill means it gives radio waves in which the connection with the drone and the remote will be cancelled. Now another important news is National Dolphin Research Center built in Patna. So center is being set up in the banks of Ganges as part of the recommendation of the steering committee constituted in the implementation of Project Dolphin. Okay, so according to the committee, Bihar has a natural advantage as it is accounted for about 50% of the world's river dolphin population. Okay, and it was first proposed in 2011. So we look into Gangetic river dolphin. So it is called Plantista gangetica. It was officially discovered in 1801. And Ganges river dolphins live in Ganges, Brahmaputra, Meghna, and Karnapuli Sango river, that is systems of Nepal, India, and Bangladesh. They live only in fresh water. So it is actually an indicator of fresh water. They are also called Susu. Okay, and Conservation status. So conservation status is in Indian Wildlife Protection Act, Schedule 1, IUCN, it is endangered. Convention of Trade Cities, we have sites, we have Appendix 1, most endangered. That is, you cannot trade these animals. Convention on Migratory Species, Appendix 2. Okay. Now we have new education policy. It was in the news because it is the first year after the implementation of new education policy. Okay. Universalization of education from preschool to secondary level, 100% GR in school education by 2030. New education policy will bring about 2 crore out of the school children back into the mainstream. No rigid separation between academic streams, extracurricular, vocational streams in schools. Vocational education will start from class 6 with internships. So new system, that is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 school curriculum with 12 years of schooling and 3 years of Anganwadi and preschooling. Teaching up to at least 5 grade will be in mother tongue or regional languages. Okay. So what is this 3 plus 3 plus form? In the previous times we had, it was actually for ages between children in ages between 16 to 18. It was 2 years, that is, you have your 11th and 12th. Now, and also 10 years, that is 1 to 10th class. Now we have, what we have is on the apex level 4 years. Okay, 4 years, that is from 9 to 12, and 3 years, that is 6 to 8. 3 years again, it is for classes 3 to 5, and 2 years down over here we have classes 1 and 2, and 3 years, that is Anganwadi. Okay. So secondary stage, multidisciplinary study, greater critical thinking, flexibility, student choices. It's given over here. Middle stage, experimental learning in sciences, mathematics, arts, social sciences, and humanities. So in the green we have preparatory stage, play, discovery, and activity based interactive classroom learning. And on the last 5, the initial 5 years, foundational stage, multi-level play, activity based learning. Now we have Akash missile. Okay, Akash missile. Again, we have recommended. I have told about IGMDB. It is an initiative by Dr. Abdul Kalam. Okay, was an Indian Ministry of Defense program for research and development for the comprehensive range of missiles. It was approved on July 26, 1983 to develop 5 missiles: Prithvi, Agni, Trishul, and Nag. And program ended on 2008. Akash was indigenously developed all-weather air defense weapon missile. It uses a high explosive pre-fragmented warhead and can engage multiple threats simultaneously. Okay, it's an all-weather air defense weapon. Okay. Now, Jal Jeevan Mission. Jal Jeevan Mission is envisioned to provide safe and adequate drinking water through individual rural household tap connections by 2024. It is based on community approach of water and will include extensive information, education, and communication as a key component of mission. The mission is launched on 15th August 2019. Okay, Phalia wheat. Phalia wheat is a type of wheat cultivated in the Bhal region in the North Gulf of Kambat, Gujarat, India. It has a high protein content and is sweet in taste. Phalia variety of wheat received GI certification on July 2011. Now Matsya Setu. Matsya Setu is an app that is developed by ICAR, Central Institute of Freshwater Aquaculture, and Central Institute of Freshwater Aquaculture. Comprises species wise and subject wise self-learning online classes. The security and growth for all in the region, that is Sagar initiative. In 2015, India unveiled its strategic vision for the Indian Ocean. It is an increasing recognition for increasing importance of maritime security, maritime commons and cooperations. Through Sagar, India seeks to deepen economic and security cooperation with its maritime neighbors, assist in building their maritime security capabilities. So, Sagar initiative involves Maldives, Seychelles, Assumption Island, Grenada Islands, Diego Garcia, Mauritius, and Madagascar. Okay. Now, G20 is an informal group of 19 countries and the European Union. Okay, with representatives of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and World Bank. The G20 membership comprises of the mix of world's largest advanced and emerging economies representing two-thirds of the world's population, 85% of the GDP, and 80% of global investment, and over 75% of global trade. It does not have any permanent secretariat or headquarters. Okay, it is very important. G20 countries are given here. You can go through it. Now, another important news was about the establishment of Padur crude oil storage capacity. So, strategic oil reserves are the category of all these resorts. There are currently 5 strategic reserves. We have one is in Vishakhapatnam, we have Mangalore, and we have it in Padur, and we have Chandikhole in Odisha, and again there are 2 facilities in Padur. Okay, the largest among these is in Chandikhole, Odisha. Okay, so why is this necessary? The strategic petroleum reserves, the world's largest supply of emergency crude oil, was established primarily to reduce the impact of disruption. Suppose there are disruptions in our country. Suppose US imposes sanctions in our country that we cannot buy oil or crude oil from some oil producing country. So we need some reserves in order for our economy to run for a particular time. So in order to do that, we need oil reserves. So that is done by the strategic oil reserves. Okay. NISAR mission, ISRO NASA joint mission. It's an ISRO and NASA joint mission. NISAR, NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar, which aims to measure changes in the Earth's surface globally using advanced radar images, is scheduled to be launched in 2023. To be launched in 2023. Indra exercise. It is a 12th edition Indo-Russia joint military exercise. Okay, will be held at Volgograd, Russia. Indra series of exercises began in 2003. Okay, it is a initially it was a naval exercise. Now it is a first joint tri-service exercise. It was conducted on 2017. Last joint tri-service exercise was conducted in 2019, held simultaneously at Babina near Jhansi, Pune and Goa. Now, anti-defection law. Anti-defection law in news because Lok Sabha Secretariat has issued notice on MPs Sisir Adhikari, Sunil Kumar Mondal and K. Raghurama Krishnaraju under anti-defection law. So, anti-defection law is a 10th schedule was inserted in the Constitution in 1985 by the 52nd Amendment Act. It lays down the process in which. So, what is defection or defection law? It is a process in which legislatures may be disqualified on the grounds of defection by the presiding officer in legislature based on the petition by other member of the House. The law applies to both Parliament and state assemblies. So, when can a member be disqualified? If a member of an house belonging to a particular party voluntarily gives up the membership of his political party, votes or does not vote in the legislature contrary to the direction of his, if the political party in which a person belongs says you should vote in yes, but he votes in no, defection law can be applied. Okay, it is if an independent candidate joins a political party after the election. If a nominated member joins party 6 months after he becomes a member of the legislature. Okay, sessions of the parliament. So, a session of the parliament is a period during which a house meets almost every day uninterruptedly to manage businesses. There are typically 3 sessions in 1 year. So, the 3 sessions are budget session, that is from February to May. Then we have monsoon session, July to September, winter session, November to December. So, the longest session is monsoon session. The longest session is budget session. Okay, the question was there in some particular MCQ that I attempted. So, longest is budget session. And summoning of parliament. Summoning is a process of calling all members of the parliament to meet. So, president summons each house of the parliament from time to time. So, the gap between 2 sessions of the parliament cannot exceed 6 months. Okay, which means parliament meets at least 2 times in a year. So, what is adjournment? Done by the presiding officer, that is, House Speaker, Deputy Speaker in the Lok Sabha, or Chairman uh, or Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So, means stopping the meet. World Heritage Site. So it was in the news because Liverpool, the English city of Liverpool, has been removed from the UNESCO's list of World Heritage Site in the 13th century Ramappa Temple of Palmit, Telangana, in our country, was declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and Harappan city Dholavira, present-day Gujarat, also named 40th Indian site in the UNESCO's World Heritage List. Okay, so there are three types of heritage sites: cultural heritage sites, natural heritage sites, and mixed heritage sites. So in India, there are 40 World Heritage Sites, out of which 32 are cultural properties, 7 are natural properties, and 1 is a mixed site. So Dholavira's location is around over here in Gujarat. Okay, site was discovered by J.P. Joshi of the Archaeological Survey of India. Okay, in 1967 to 68. It is the fifth largest of 8 major Harappan sites. Now, this map is given because you need to understand which all Harappan sites are inside India and which all Harappan sites are outside India. Okay, just learn and go through it. It may come in handy. So, we look into Ramappa temple. So, Ramappa temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva. It is situated in Palmet village, around 67 km from the city of Warangal, that is Telangana. Also famous for Ramalingeshwara temple, it was built under the supervision of Chief Commander Drecharya Rudra during the reign of Ganapati Deva from Kakatiya dynasty. Kakatiya dynasty was a South Indian dynasty that ruled Andhra Pradesh in India in 1883 CE to 1323 CE. The temple has its name of the sculpture Ramappa. Okay. Foundations are built on with the sandbox technique. Now, Great Indian Busters. Great Indian Busters were in news because in Gujarat and Rajasthan areas, due to the power lines, here it's given, due to the electrocution from power transmission lines, most of the Indian busters were getting killed. So, that was the news. So, it is a state bird of Rajasthan, considered India's most critically endangered bird. It is considered the flagship grassland species, representing the health of grassland ecology. Population is confined mostly to Rajasthan and Gujarat. Small population occur in Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. Okay, and threats I have discussed earlier. Its protection status is it's critically endangered in IUCN Red List. Convention of Trade Cities is Appendix 1. Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 is Schedule 1. So, 14 tiger reserves in India have accreditation of global conservation standards. So, 14 tiger reserves are Orang, Manas, and Kaziranga in Assam, Kana, Panna, and Satpura in Madhya Pradesh. You have Penj in Maharashtra, Valmiki Tiger Reserve in Bihar, Dugdha in Uttar Pradesh, Sundarbans in West Bengal, Parambikulam in Kerala, Bandipur Tiger Reserve in Karnataka, Annemalai and Mudumalai Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu. So, tigers classification as endangered in the IUCN Red List of certain species, and it is estimated to be only 3,500 tigers remaining in the worldwide. Okay. Now we look into another important aspect, that is wholesale price index. It measures the changes in the prices of goods sold and traded in bulk by wholesale businesses and other businesses. So it is published by the Office of Economic Advisor, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This is an important point. Okay, base year taken is initially it was 2004 to 2005. It revised to 2011 to 2012, 2017. Now, consumer price index, it measures the price changes from perspective of a retail buyer. It is released by National Statistical Office. Okay, base year is 2012. Okay, and the Monetary Policy Committee uses CPI data to control inflation. April 2004, Reserve Bank of India adopted CPI as a key measure of inflation. Now, sedition laws actually, when you say against the government or something that can cause violence or unrest in the country, that is termed as sedition. Sedition laws are enacted in the 17th century England, where lawmakers believed that only good opinions of the government should survive, no bad opinions were detrimental to the government and monarchy. Okay, this sentiment was borrowed and inserted in the section 124A of IPC in 1870 by British. British used sedition law to convict and sentence freedom fighters. The first one to be persecuted was Bal Gangadhar Tilak in 1897. And Mahatma Gandhi was also tried for sedition for his articles in Young India. Now, another important aspect is 2 plus 2 dialogue. 2 plus 2 dialogue, India holds similar dialogues with US, Australia, and Japan. This time it is because it was between Russia. Okay, they are planning to. Okay, US, Australia, Japan are Quad members. It includes India also. Okay, 2 plus 2 dialogues are between foreign and defense ministers of both countries. Now, Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Okay, so whenever a question of map arises, I have put the map over here. So the Nile, which Nile originates the Blue Nile, and there is White Nile over here. White Nile passes South Sudan and Sudan, and it reaches Egypt. And Blue Nile originates from Ethiopia. Okay, and this is the location of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam project. Okay, now we look into detail of this dam. Recently, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt have agreed to resume negotiations to resolve their decade-long complex dispute over the Grand Renaissance Dam hydropower project in the Horn of Africa. Spearheaded by Ethiopia, it is a 145-meter tall Grand Renaissance hydropower project. When completed, it is Africa's largest. Its construction was initiated in 2011 on the Blue Nile tributary of the river. We have looked at it in the map. Okay, runs across one part of Ethiopia. Nile is necessary water source of the region. Egypt is consistently objected to the dam's construction, saying it will impact water flow. So this was all for July current affairs series. I hope the lecture was productful for you guys. God bless you all. Until next time, Jai Hind.